What's up guys, Kyle here again, and today we're gonna see what AIRIS Effects is up to in 2024 by checking out these pedals. Let's do it. Alright guys, hope you're doing great out there today. If this is your first time here at my channel, my name is Kyle. What I do is I take all sorts of awesome high gain related guitar equipment, I record it with a simple, I bit my tongue while saying that, a simple setup, and I give you the unprocessed audio on your end. So if you're into E-standard thrash riffs, dropsy hardcore riffs, and dudes that now have a swollen tongue, you're in the right place. Consider hitting the like button and subscribing on the way out so you don't miss any more of my stuff. Thanks! Alright guys, so today we get to check out some pedals from a pedal builder that I actually have not featured on the channel since maybe the very first month that I started doing all of this. And that is AIRIS Effects. If you guys are unfamiliar with AIRIS Effects, they are a company out of Canada that is just one person, Richard. And though he is not a dick, he is somebody who has built some of the most popular overdrives in the boutique pedal market in the last 5 to 10 years. More than likely, if you're someone who goes for similar tones that I go for and hang in the same circles that I do, you have very much heard of the Savage Drive. In fact, for a while, I think the Savage Drive was like the most mentioned and recommended overdrive for boosting high gain amplifiers that I can remember. Like I was seeing those things pop up everywhere. A lot of people were really digging them, and it was just among the top overdrives that people were using for that purpose. So when AIRIS Effects reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to check out some stuff with you guys here on the channel, I said, absolutely. We talked back and forth about some of his current offerings, and we ended up on these three pedals: the Mid Screamer, the Carnage Drive, and the HM808. But real quick, before we jump into this little playthrough video, I do want to let you know this is a sponsored video. AIRIS are paying me to share these here with you guys on the channel. So feel free to take everything I have to say with a massive grain of salt. You're more than fair to do so. But just know you're going to get my honest thoughts and opinions as you always do. So keep that in mind. But in all honesty, I really wanted to check out this stuff anyway, so I was really happy that they hit me up. So the Mid Screamer, you might think this is another TS808, TS9 style clone with an additional knob, but it really isn't. Like, it's got its own really unique character to it. It can actually be treated as just an EQ pedal too, because if you've got the gain all the way down on this thing, it actually doesn't boost your signal whatsoever. It's really just affecting those mid frequencies, which are controlled by these two knobs right here. The frequency controls the frequency, and that frequency control actually allows you to select any frequency from 1400 to 2700 kilohertz to either boost or cut. That's what's really unique about this thing. You're not necessarily boosting your mids. You can actually dial it back below noon and it'll cut those mid frequencies. So if you have a guitar that in a certain amp is just really has some sort of annoying mid frequency, you can actually zero in on that and pull it back. So I think that that's really cool. Obviously the gain control, that is going to add some additional output and saturation, and it really does go a long way. The Carnage Drive, which is the one that I actually find surprisingly the most interesting, this thing can add an absolute metric ton of output to whatever amp you're putting it in the front of, and you can fine tune how tight or how boomy you want it with the two controls here. They kind of work synergistically to control the low end response, and this thing is gonna give you more output than you're ever gonna need. But on amps that are sensitive to something like a TC integrated preamp style pedal, which is very easy to kind of like overload the front end of something like a dual rectifier or the JCM 900, this pedal never does that. It never gets to that point where things just start sounding messed up. Like, it is only adding gain and saturation to the signal, and it sounds really cool. And then finally, the HM808. That name is going to lead you to think that maybe this is a combination of two famous pedals. You instantly see that name and probably think HM2 TS808. Well, guess what? You're right. This literally is a combination of the voicing of the HM2 and a little bit of that saturation and grind, but also combined with a tube screamer. So this is more of like I'd say an HM2 flavored overdrive than it is an all out balls to the wall HM2 distortion slash chainsaw pedal. It really kind of gives you that voicing and that vibe overall, but acts more like a normal tube screamer, so you can flavor the distortion of whatever amp you're putting it into, and it's very, very controllable. It doesn't get over the top unless you really crank that gain all the way up. And I think it adds some really cool EQ tweaks and voicing to whatever amp that you put it in the front of. So I'm gonna stop talking about these pedals and we're gonna start hearing them. For this demo, I have actually chosen 3 different amplifiers. Of course, dual rectifier and 6505. I feel like these are kind of standard fare when we're testing out boost or overdrive style pedals, because everybody knows how these sound, everybody knows how they react to the typical overdrives. So hearing these AIRIS effects pedals through these will kind of give you a good idea of what you're getting. And then finally, I added a Marshall flavored amp, but I added the JCM 900 high gain dual reverb because this amp doesn't really have a lot of gain or saturation on its own. So I just wanted to show you the pure output and saturation that these pedals can actually add to an amp that's not already super saturated as it is. All of these amplifiers are going into a Friedman 2x12 cabinet. I've got my SM57 on the Vintage 30 inside the Friedman cabinet, but I've also got an SE Electronics X1A condenser microphone because I found that it pairs really well with an SM57 to kind of pick up some of the frequencies that the SM57 doesn't, so you guys will kind of get like a better picture of what is coming out of that speaker. After that though, there will be absolutely no post-processing. What you guys are hearing is what the speaker is putting out into these microphones. We're gonna start on the JCM 900 and we'll flip through all 3 pedals really quick. So it is approaching high gain territory, but it is definitely nowhere near as saturated as either of these 2 amplifiers can get. We're gonna start out with the Carnage Drive because it's my channel and I'm gonna do what the hell I want. So we're gonna kick it in. We have it dialed as you guys see on your screen. So as you can see, a massive amount of saturation is being added to the JCM 900. It is truly in modern high gain territory. And on top of that, it's actually adding some low end punch, but it's not a muddy low end. Like, it's a very percussive low end. It's also adding just a little bit of top end grind, but not much. The smash control on the pedal is not only going to add output, but it is also going to add low end. The stab is going to add some higher end frequencies and grind, but this also kind of tightens up as you turn that stab control up as well. So real quick, we'll put both controls up here around noon. So yeah, as you dial up that stab control, it gets really clanky, really modern, and yeah, we were just adding too much to the front of the JCM 900, so it was starting to get kind of crazy and noisy. So let's dial them both about right there. All right, so that is the Carnage Drive. As you guys can tell, I'm having a lot of fun with that one. I really, really dig it. Here, we're gonna kick in the mid screamer. Again, here's the amp with no overdrive on. And here it is with the mid screamer set the way that you guys see it on your screen. So as you guys can see, I actually have this cutting some mids because on the JCM 900, there are definitely some annoying upper mid frequencies, especially when you boost it with certain overdrives. So I'm actually going to add a little bit more gain and I'm gonna bring the boost control back to neutral. So as you guys can hear, this pedal has just an inherent like upper mid twang to it, which I think is really cool, especially once you start tuning down. This will really tighten up an amplifier and will add those cutting mid frequencies that you need, even with the control here, you know, basically at neutral. But if we dial this up, which we're gonna do, I'll run through the range of frequencies so you guys can see how much of a difference it makes. So this pedal can have a massive overall effect on your tone depending on how you have it dialed in. So that was boosting frequencies. What happens if we dial it back and we actually cut those frequencies heavily? So yeah, big difference. Whether cutting or boosting, it really can shape those mids and make them really modern, or make them sound a little bit flatter, make your tone overall a little bit less grindy. That is the mid screamer. And finally, we've got the HM808. This is the HM2 flavored TS8 style boost. I have it dialed as you see here on the screen. Again, this is the amp with no boost. Boost on, dialed in as you see. All right, so I actually really dig this pedal even more than I originally thought I did. Like, it adds kind of that like Cocteau mid thing that I personally really like. I've always been a fan of that sound, and I've always liked the mid voicing of the HM2, what it does to amplifiers, but I was never a fan of how crazy out of control it would sound and how it would make the notes like super indistinct. But this kind of gives you the best of both worlds. It boosts your amp, gives you a little bit more distortion, tightens things up if you want it to. That's how I have it dialed in right now, but you can also dial this in to boost the lows a bit, but remains under control. It gives you the good parts of the voicing without the bad, in my personal opinion. Let's go ahead, let's push up that low, let's push up the gain, see if we can get it even more saturated. Yeah, that's a lot of fun. We can get some even gnarlier top end grind out of this if we push the highs. All right. My personal opinion, I think that pedal sounds the sickest. Now, I'm changing my mind. I'm going with this one over the Carnage Drive. I love my job. I love getting to check stuff out like this. I also love getting to talk poorly into a camera. It's super fun. So, that was the JCM 900. The JCM 900 and Marshalls in general don't go that well with V30 speakers though, so let's check out a couple of these drives on the 6505. All right, so again, here is the amp with no overdrive in front. All right, so So that top end control on this pedal does a lot. I really like just the nastiness that this is adding to the 6505. I think it's super sick. Let's try the Carnage drive on the 6505. Alright, so you can see the massive amount of push, even with the controls dialed back a bit, that the Carnage drive has on the 6505. I thought it actually did sound pretty cool. Here is the mid screamer. Alright guys, I actually pulled an audible real quick because I really think the mid screamer does well with lower tuned guitars. So here is a guitar that is in drop C. So here is the amp with no boost, and then we'll kick on the mid screamer. So that actually makes the amp sound, this particular amp sound, super clanky. Like it gives it that really metallic percussive sound. Sounds really, really cool. What happens if we boost up a slower, or a lower, not a slower, mid frequency? Last but not least, let's go over to the dual rectifier. All right guys, so we are on the multi-watt dual rectifier. This rectifier has a little bit of a secret though. I actually have a Legendary Tones Hot Mod Evo installed in this. Yes, it does work on the multi-watt rectifier. So the difference that will make is that this amp will just naturally have more gain than a stock dual rectifier. So keep that in mind. Right now we have no boost on in front. I've got the gain on around 11 o'clock here, and this is what it sounds like. All right, so let's turn on the mid screamer as you guys see it dialed here. All right, that actually sounds really nasty, really tight and clanky. Let's turn the gain completely off on the pedal so we're just getting the mid effect. What it does to the signal, tightens up significantly, adds some of that like crazy mid clank. I definitely think it's cool, especially for the lower tunings. Let's try out the Carnage drive again. Pull that gain way back on the amplifier. Here's the amp with no drive. So again, super clanky, dialing that smash down too far though does kind of thin things out, so let's get it just above that level. Alright, so dialing that all the way up definitely makes it like completely over the top with the output and the low end and low mid punch. So last but not least, I'm actually really excited to see how this amplifier interacts with the HM808. Again, one more time, amplifier with no boost. And with the HM808 engage. All right, so with the gain completely down, it actually doesn't have that big of a boost effect, so let's get a little bit more gain in there. Yep, okay, HM808 is definitely my favorite out of the bunch, man. This thing is reacting really, really well with all three amplifiers. I really love the grind and the voicing that it's imparting on each of them. So, one final riff. We're gonna do a really thrashy riff just to show you how much this particular boost tightens and makes the rectifier very percussive. It turns it into a thrash machine, essentially. So, real quick, no boost and then the boost on. So, pretty lame, right? Let's turn on the boost. Oh yeah, the 808 is making its way onto my pedal board at some point because that is one of the gnarliest tones I've ever gotten out of a rectifier. That sounds absolutely nasty. I really, really dig that one. All three of them had their cool points. Their cool points? I need some cool points. So I really feel like there's an individual pedal for each individual need with the three that we're checking out here. But I want to know what you guys thought about them. What did you think about the tones that I was able to get out of them? What do you think about these pedals? If you have tried them for yourself or you own them, let me know down below in the comments, as I'm always really curious to see what you guys have to say about this stuff. Was there any particular pedal that you thought stood out and you now want to go pick it up for yourself? Because if you do, I'm going to go ahead and drop links down below in the description of this video. Again, AIRIS Effects is out of Canada. You can buy direct from them, but they also have a reverb store. And at the time of filming this video, I believe the mid screamer is around 175 US dollars, and these two pedals are around 150 US dollars. And when I checked, all three of them were in stock. So you should be able to get your hands on them if you would like to. Again, I'll put some links down below for you guys to be able to find them. Thanks again to AIRIS Effects for sending these pedals out and sponsoring this video. I honestly had a ton of fun doing this, so hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you had fun as well. I'm gonna get the hell out of here though. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Kyle here again. We'll see you next time.
You know what this wall is missing? Another amp. There we go.